Selena Morris, 29 years old, stood in front of her office window, staring at the city lights that stretched endlessly across Houston. People saw her as a confident financial consultant, a woman who had built success from sheer grit. But deep down, she carried scars carved years earlier by the very people who were supposed to protect her. Her mind drifted back to college days, when a single email had shattered her carefully planned future. It was a notice that her scholarship had been cut. $10,000 now stood between her and her dream degree. She remembered how her hands shook as she picked up the phone. "Mom," she had whispered, barely holding back tears. "I need help, please. It's $10,000. I'll pay you back." On the other end, her mother's tone was cold, firm, almost rehearsed. "Selena, we can't afford it." That sentence replayed in her mind like a cruel echo. Selena had tried her father next, dialing his number with trembling fingers. "Dad," she pleaded, "I can't lose this. Please just help me with tuition. I'll figure the rest out." His voice was calm but dismissive, as though she were asking for something frivolous. "You'll figure it out, Selena. You're resourceful." The call ended with silence heavier than any debt. She sat alone in her dorm room that night, staring at her cracked laptop screen. To stay in school, she realized she would need to work twice as hard as anyone else. And she did. Early mornings found her at a diner, balancing plates and dodging grumpy customers. Evenings were spent in the economics department, filing endless stacks of papers. Her diet became instant noodles and cheap coffee. Her sleep measured in minutes. But the real wound came not from poverty, but from betrayal. That Thanksgiving, Selena had overheard her parents whispering in the kitchen. She froze, hidden near the hallway, when her mother's voice sliced through the air. "We had to use the inheritance, Marcus. Darren was drowning in debt. The casino was after him." Selena's heart pounded. Inheritance. That money was meant for both her and Darren, their grandfather's last gift. Her father's tone was resigned. "We didn't have a choice. It was the only way to save him." Selena's knees weakened. She pushed into the kitchen, her voice trembling but sharp. "You took my share." Her mother turned, eyes wide. "Selena, you don't understand." "No," Selena cut in. "I understand perfectly. I begged for $10,000. You said you had nothing. But you had $100,000 for Darren's gambling." Her brother Darren sat on the couch, smirking faintly as if the entire matter were a minor inconvenience. "I didn't ask them to," he muttered. But his words sounded hollow, careless. Selena glared at him, her voice cracking. "You didn't stop them either. You knew what this would do to me." Her father finally spoke, though his tone was weak. "It was a family decision." She let out a bitter laugh. "A family decision. I wasn't even in the room." Her mother stepped closer, reaching for her hand. "Selena, you're strong. Darren isn't. He needed saving." Selena pulled back, shaking her head. "Strong? You call abandoning me strength? You chose him over me." Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "I don't need a family that betrays me." That night, she slammed the door behind her and vowed never to look back. From that day forward, Selena cut all ties. She returned to her campus, her body exhausted but her will sharper than ever. She worked longer shifts, borrowed old textbooks instead of buying new ones, and filled notebooks with financial calculations in place of lecture notes. Sleep was stolen in libraries, her meals often skipped. Yet she refused to break. Professor Elaine Ward, noticing her exhaustion, pulled her aside after class. "Selena, you're one of my brightest students. What's happening?" For the first time, Selena shared her story. The lost scholarship, the 2 jobs, and now the betrayal. Elaine listened quietly, then placed a hand on Selena's shoulder. "You're stronger than you think. Don't let them define you." The words didn't erase the pain, but they gave her a small spark of hope. Years passed, and Selena fought her way to graduation. She walked across the stage with her head high, though her body bore the weight of sleepless nights and crushing loans. With nothing but a suitcase and relentless determination, she moved to Dallas. Her first job at a financial firm was grueling. Endless spreadsheets, impossible deadlines, and bosses who never remembered her name. But Selena thrived. She stayed late, studied market patterns during breaks, and proposed bold strategies that saved clients thousands. One day, her manager handed her a project nobody else wanted. "Try not to sink this ship," he said sarcastically. Selena poured her soul into it, turning losses into profit. When the client sent a glowing letter of praise, her manager's smirk disappeared. It was in Dallas that she met Clara Jennings, a creative designer with an easy laugh and a fierce sense of loyalty. They bonded over late-night coffee runs and shared stories of broken families. One evening, sitting on Clara's small balcony, Clara said, "Selena, you're a genius with numbers. Why are you building someone else's dream? Start your own company." Selena had thought about it before but had buried the idea under fear. Clara's conviction lit something inside her. "You really think I can?" Selena asked softly. Clara grinned. "I don't think. I know." That night, Selena sketched out her first plan for a consulting firm. Starting was brutal. Her office was nothing more than a corner of her tiny apartment. Her desk a shaky table she'd rescued from a thrift store. She cold-called small businesses, offering to manage their investments. Most doors slammed in her face, but one bakery owner gave her a chance. Within 6 months, she doubled his profits by restructuring his expenses. Word spread. More clients trickled in. Startups, shops, family businesses desperate for guidance. Selena's reputation grew not because of fancy titles but because she delivered results. Clara designed her logo, cheered her victories, and reminded her of her worth whenever doubt crept in. Slowly, Selena's dream became real. Despite her growing success, the ghost of her family's betrayal haunted her. She sought help from Dr. Vanessa Green, a therapist recommended by a colleague. In Vanessa's calm office, Selena unpacked years of hurt, the favoritism, the lies, the stolen inheritance. "They chose him every time," Selena whispered one afternoon. Vanessa leaned forward, her voice gentle. "Selena, their choices don't define your worth. Look at what you've built despite them." Selena nodded, tears slipping down her face. Those sessions didn't erase the past, but they gave her strength to focus on her present. By 2021, Selena's company had grown into a thriving firm. She hired a small team, rented a proper office, and earned the respect of her peers. Then came her boldest move yet, purchasing a failing financial firm back in her hometown of Raleigh. She kept her identity hidden, quietly restructuring its debts and streamlining operations. Within a year, it transformed into one of the most profitable branches in the region. Walking through those halls, Selena felt pride that no family approval could give. Clara teased her often. "You're a secret mogul, Selena." Selena laughed, but sometimes her smile faded. Deep inside, she still wondered what it would feel like for her parents to see her now, to realize what they had lost. Selena's success spread quickly through Dallas, but she kept her personal life guarded. She avoided any mention of her parents or Darren. To her employees, she was the ambitious CEO with an unshakable work ethic. To Clara, she was both vulnerable and strong, someone carrying old wounds while carving a new life. "Do you ever think of going back?" Clara asked one night over dinner. Selena shook her head firmly. "No, they made their choice. I was never enough for them." Clara leaned across the table, her eyes soft. "You were more than enough. They just couldn't see it." Selena smiled faintly but stayed silent. One spring morning, Selena's phone buzzed with a message from an old high school friend. Curious, she opened it, only to feel her chest tighten. Darren had crashed again, this time losing everything to a cryptocurrency scam. He had boasted about turning thousands into millions, but it was all smoke and mirrors. The platform collapsed overnight, leaving him penniless. The message continued. Her parents had stepped in once again. To cover his debts, They had sold the family house. Selena stared at the words, her mind flashing back to her mother's garden and her father's desk in the study. Gone, all gone, sacrificed to clean up Darren's mess. Later that week, Selena met her friend at a cafe. Over steaming mugs of coffee, she listened as more details spilled out. Her parents had moved into a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of Raleigh. Her mother now worked part-time as a cashier, her father scraping together freelance bookkeeping jobs. Darren, of course, had moved back in, sleeping on a pull-out couch and spinning tales of his next big win. Friends no longer picked up his calls, tired of his empty promises. Selena stirred her coffee slowly, her face unreadable. "So, they finally see what I saw years ago," she said quietly. Her friend leaned forward. "Selena, your mom asked about you." She didn't know what to say, but I could tell she regrets things. Selena gave a short laugh, though it lacked humor. "Regrets don't pay back stolen futures. I begged for 10,000 once. They had nothing. But for him they sold their house." Her friend studied her face. "Would you ever go back? Talk to them?" Selena shook her head, her eyes cold. "They're not my family anymore. They chose their path. I chose mine." Still, the news weighed on her. At night, she lay awake in her Dallas apartment, staring at the ceiling. Memories returned. The way her father used to ruffle Darren's hair after another failed exam, the way her mother would light up at Darren's half-baked dreams, while her own achievements barely earned a nod. She clenched her fists under the blanket. She had fought too hard to let guilt drag her back. Clara noticed the dark circles under her eyes. "You're thinking about them again, aren't you?" she asked softly. Selena sighed. "I can't help it. They threw everything away for him. And now they want me to feel sorry." Clara reached over, squeezing her hand. "Then don't. You don't owe them anything." The following year, Selena's company continued to thrive. She traveled between Dallas and Raleigh, ensuring her new branch ran smoothly. Employees admired her calm authority, clients respected her expertise, and her reputation grew beyond the state. Yet, she kept her identity hidden in Raleigh. People there saw her as a young CEO who had swooped in to save a failing firm, not as the daughter who had once walked away from her family's Thanksgiving table. She preferred it that way. Distance was her shield. Then, one April morning, everything changed. Selena had just stepped into her Raleigh office when the receptionist, Judy, approached her nervously. "Ms. Morris, there's a woman in the lobby asking for you. She says she's your mother." Selena froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. Slowly she walked to the front, and there she was. Diane Morris, thinner now, her hair streaked with gray, her face lined with exhaustion. She clutched her worn coat like a shield. For a moment time stopped. "Mom," Selena said, her voice steady but cold. Diane's eyes widened. "Selena. I didn't know you were here." The silence stretched, heavy and awkward. Employees passed by, glancing curiously, sensing tension in the air. Selena gestured toward a private conference room. Inside, Diane sank into a chair, her shoulders slumped. "I didn't come to beg," she said quickly. "I just wanted to see you. To know if you're okay." Selena folded her arms. "I've been okay for years. Without you." Diane flinched, tears welling in her eyes. "I made mistakes. We both did, your father and I. We thought we were protecting Darren, but..." Her voice trailed off. Selena's eyes narrowed. "You thought protecting him meant destroying me?" Diane reached across the table, her hand trembling. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We thought you were strong enough to manage on your own. And you were. Look at you now. You've built a life I can't even imagine." Selena pulled her hand back before it touched her. "I built this life because you left me no choice. Don't take credit for my survival." Diane's tears spilled over, sliding down her cheeks. "I just wanted a chance to say I'm sorry." Selena leaned back, her face hard. "Sorry doesn't erase the years I spent starving, working until dawn, drowning in debt while you handed Darren everything." For a long moment, The only sound was the ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, Diane whispered, "He's not well, Selena. He's still making bad choices. We've lost everything because of him." Selena's jaw tightened. "And you expect me to fix it? Again?" Diane shook her head. "No, I'm not asking for money. I wanted you to know the truth. I wanted you to see that I regret it all." Selena stood, her chair scraping against the floor. "You regret it now because you've lost. But when I was losing, you turned your back." Diane bowed her head, silent. Selena walked to the door, her voice flat. "I don't need this. Not anymore." Selena stepped out of the conference room, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. Her employees looked up from their desks, sensing something heavy had just happened. She kept her face composed, her voice calm as she said, "Judy, please make sure our guest gets escorted out safely." Judy nodded nervously, glancing at Diane's slumped figure through the glass walls. Back in her office, Selena closed the door and pressed her palms against the desk. For a long while she just stood there, staring at the city skyline. Memories she had buried clawed their way back. The slammed door on that Thanksgiving night, the sound of Darren's laughter as she stormed out, the silence from her parents as she begged for tuition money. That evening Clara called. "You sound off. What happened?" Selena hesitated, then sighed. "She showed up, Clara. My mother. She found me in Raleigh." Clara's voice softened. "What did she say?" Selena stared at the ceiling, her throat tight. "She said she was sorry. Said she regretted everything. But it was too late. I couldn't." Her voice broke, surprising her. Clara stayed quiet, giving her space. Finally Selena whispered, "I don't know if I feel anger anymore or just emptiness." Clara replied gently, "Both can exist. You don't owe them forgiveness, Selena. Not if it costs your peace." The next day, Darren himself appeared. He swaggered into the Raleigh office lobby like he owned the place, wearing wrinkled clothes and a forced grin. "Well, well, look who made it big," he said loudly, drawing stares. Selena's blood boiled, but she forced a polite smile for the sake of her staff. "Mr. Morris, let's talk privately." Once the door closed behind them, Darren dropped the act. "I need money, sis. Just a little to get back on my feet. You know I'll pay you back when my next venture hits." Selena crossed her arms. "Your next scam, you mean?" Darren scowled. "Come on, don't be cruel. We're family." Selena laughed bitterly. "Family? You sat on that couch while they stole my inheritance to pay your debts. You let me starve and struggle. And now, after everything, you think I'll save you?" Darren shifted uncomfortably, his charm faltering. "I was young then. Stupid. But I've changed." Selena's eyes narrowed. "No, you haven't. You're still chasing shortcuts while others clean up your mess." Darren slammed his fist on the desk. "You think you're better than me just because you got lucky?" Selena leaned forward, her voice cold. "I didn't get lucky. I worked for every cent. Get out, Darren. Don't ever show up here again." Word of Darren's outburst spread quickly among the employees, though Selena never addressed it publicly. Instead, she buried herself in work, guiding her company through another profitable quarter. Yet, behind closed doors, she felt the weight of every encounter. Dr. Green noticed the tension during their next session. "You saw both your mother and brother this week," Vanessa said calmly. Selena nodded. "They came looking for me. Mom wanted forgiveness. Darren wanted money. Neither deserved it." Vanessa studied her carefully. "And how did you feel afterward?" Selena exhaled slowly. "Tired. Like I've been carrying a weight for years, and every time they show up, it gets heavier." Vanessa leaned forward. "What if the weight isn't theirs anymore, Selena? What if you've already carried it long enough?" Selena frowned, unsure. "What do you mean?" Vanessa smiled softly. "You've built a life independent of them. They no longer control your future. But by holding on to the anger, you let them control your present. What would it look like if you chose to let it go? Not for them, but for you?" Selena sat in silence, the words sinking deep. For the first time, she considered that forgiveness wasn't about absolving them. It was about freeing herself. Days later, Selena drove through Raleigh alone. She passed her old neighborhood, the street where she once rode her bike, the corner store where she used to buy candy with her carefully saved coins. Everything looked smaller now. She slowed down near the spot where her parents' house once stood. The house had been sold, torn down, replaced with a new development. She sat in her car, staring, her chest tight. "All gone," she whispered to herself. A flood of memories rushed in. Family dinners, laughter that excluded her. The moment she realized she would never be their priority. She wiped her eyes quickly and drove on. Back at her apartment, Clara noticed Selena's distant look. "You went to the old neighborhood, didn't you?" Selena nodded quietly. Clara took her hands. "What did you feel?" Selena hesitated. "Strange. It hurt, but not the way it used to. More like, I was finally saying goodbye." Clara smiled faintly. "That sounds like healing, Selena." For the first time in years, Selena didn't argue. She simply let the silence wash over her, feeling a sense of release she hadn't known before. In the months that followed, Selena poured her energy into new ventures. She partnered with nonprofits to teach financial literacy in underprivileged schools, remembering her younger self who had scribbled budgets in notebooks. Standing in front of classrooms filled with eager faces, she felt a pride far deeper than any corporate success. After one session, a young girl raised her hand shyly. "Ms. Morris, do you really think someone like me can make it?" Selena knelt down, smiling warmly. "I know you can. Because I was you once." The girl's eyes lit up, and Selena felt her heart swell. Her company thrived, her impact widened, but her family remained distant shadows. Occasionally, whispers of Darren's failures reached her ears, but she no longer flinched. Her mother sent letters, apologies scrawled in shaky handwriting, but Selena rarely opened them. Forgiveness had taken root in her heart, but reconciliation was a different matter. She understood now. Some doors closed for good, and that was okay. One evening, watching the sunset from her office window, Selena whispered to herself, "I survived. Built my life. And I'm free." The words felt final, powerful, and true. Selena's company entered its 5th year with record-breaking numbers. Clients from across the state sought her expertise, praising her sharp instincts and relentless drive. She became a speaker at financial conferences, where young professionals hung on her every word. After one keynote address, a journalist approached her backstage. "Ms. Morris," he said, flipping open his notepad, "what fueled your rise? Was it ambition, luck, or something else?" Selena paused, considering her answer. Finally she said softly, "Pain. Pain made me hungry, and hunger made me unstoppable." The journalist raised his brows, scribbling furiously, while Selena walked away, knowing her truth didn't need embellishment. Clara, always her biggest supporter, noticed the toll the spotlight sometimes took. One evening, she found Selena sitting on the balcony, staring at the stars. "Long day?" Clara asked, setting down 2 mugs of tea. Selena nodded. "Everyone sees the success, but no one sees the nights I cried myself to sleep. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it." Clara placed a hand on hers. "It was. Because now you're not just living for yourself. You're showing others it's possible to rise from nothing." Selena's lips curved into a faint smile. "Maybe that's the legacy I want." Despite her growing reputation, Selena still battled moments of vulnerability. At a charity gala in Raleigh, she spotted a familiar face across the room. Her father, Marcus. He looked older, his shoulders bent, his once proud posture diminished. He didn't notice her at first, but when their eyes met, he froze. Slowly he walked over, his expression uncertain. "Selena," he murmured, his voice heavy with years of regret. She straightened her back. "Dad." For a moment neither spoke, the air thick with unspoken history. Finally Marcus whispered, "I'm sorry. Selena's heart ached, but her voice stayed steady. That word comes too late, Marcus sighed, his gaze dropping to the floor. I know. But I need you to understand. We thought we were doing the right thing. Darren was drowning and your mother and I. Selena cut him off sharply. You thought saving him was worth sacrificing me. That was never the right thing. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. You were always stronger. I thought you could handle it. Selena clenched her fists. Strength isn't an excuse for abandonment. Marcus nodded slowly, defeated. You're right. I failed you. For the first time, Selena felt no anger, only a strange calm. After the gala, Selena confided in Dr. Green. He said he was sorry, Selena explained, her voice soft. And for the first time I believed he meant it. But I can't go back. Too much damage has been done. Dr. Green nodded. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation, Selena, sometimes. It simply means acknowledging the apology and moving on. Selena leaned back in her chair, whispering, Then maybe I've already forgiven him in my heart. I just don't want them in my life. Vanessa smiled gently. And that's your right. Meanwhile, Darren continued to spiral. Rumors swirled of more scams, more unpaid debts. Old classmates whispered about his desperation, about how no one trusted him anymore. One night, Selena received a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Sis, it's me, Darren's voice slurred. I need a place to crash. Just tonight. Please. Selena closed her eyes, gripping the phone tightly. No, Darren. You need to face the consequences of your choices. He groaned. You think you're better than me, don't you? Selena's voice was firm. No, I just chose a different path. Goodbye. She hung up, tears stinging her eyes. The call left her shaken, but it also brought clarity. Selena realized she was no longer the desperate college girl begging for scraps of attention. She was a woman in control, with boundaries she refused to break. The next morning, she arrived at the office early, her resolve sharpened. As she addressed her team in their weekly meeting, she spoke not just of financial strategies but of resilience. Success isn't about never falling, she told them. It's about choosing to rise again and again, even when no one believes in you. Her employees listened intently, inspired by the conviction in her voice. Selena's message spread beyond her company. Soon, universities invited her to speak to students, especially young women studying finance. At one lecture, a student asked, What advice would you give someone whose family doesn't support them? Selena paused, her chest tightening with memories. Then she replied, Build your own support. Find mentors, friends, anyone who believes in you. And if you can't find them, believe in yourself until they appear. You are not defined by who failed you. You're defined by who you become. The room erupted in applause, and Selena felt a swell of pride. By now, Selena's story had become a quiet legend in Raleigh. Few knew the full truth, that the CEO who saved a failing firm was the very daughter her family had abandoned. Yet whispers circulated. Some speculated about her connection to the Morris family. Selena ignored them, choosing to focus on her work. But deep inside, she knew the truth couldn't stay hidden forever. One afternoon, Clara asked, What will you do when the truth comes out? Selena shrugged. I'll tell it myself. On my own terms. My story isn't one of shame. It's one of survival. That opportunity came sooner than she expected. A business magazine requested a feature on her journey, eager to showcase her rise from obscurity. Sitting in the interview chair, Selena faced the journalist's final question. If you could say one thing to the family who underestimated you, what would it be? Selena's lips curved into a faint, steady smile. Thank you. Because in pushing me away, you pushed me toward myself. And I discovered I was enough all along. The journalist's eyes widened, scribbling quickly, but Selena felt lighter than she had in years. For the first time, her truth was fully hers. The magazine article spread quickly, circulating across business networks and social media. People praised Selena's courage for sharing her story so openly. Comments flooded in. Inspirational. Proof that betrayal doesn't have to break you. But not everyone reacted positively. Darren called again, furious. You made me look like a villain, he shouted through the phone. Selena's voice was calm but firm. You didn't need my help to look like one. You did that yourself. Darren cursed, then hung up. Selena placed the phone down, her hands steady. For once, his words carried no power over her. Her parents, however, responded differently. A letter arrived in careful handwriting. Inside, her mother wrote, Selena, I read your article. I see now how deeply we hurt you. I wish I could undo it all, but I can't. Please, if nothing else, know that I am proud of you. Selena read the letter twice, her chest tightening. For years she had craved those words, but now they felt like too little too late. Still, she placed the letter in a drawer, not to throw away, but not to answer either. It was a reminder that closure sometimes came quietly. At her next therapy session, Selena shared the letter with Dr. Green. It's strange, she admitted. Part of me wanted to tear it up. Another part wanted to frame it. I don't know what to feel. Vanessa smiled gently. That's the thing about healing. It's not always clean or simple. It's layered, messy, full of contradictions. What matters is that you get to choose what stays with you and what doesn't. Selena leaned back, exhaling slowly. Then I choose to keep it as proof, not of their love, but of how far I've come without it. Meanwhile, Selena's company expanded beyond state lines. She opened new branches in Atlanta and Denver, each managed by leaders she personally trained. Her calendar filled with board meetings, strategy sessions, and speaking engagements. Yet, she never lost sight of the young girl she once was, the one who budgeted her allowance to buy a bicycle, who coded a simple app on an old laptop, who begged for tuition money and got silence in return. That girl became her compass. Never forget her, Selena whispered to herself one late night, staring at old notebooks she still kept tucked in a box. At a national finance summit, Selena shared her philosophy on leadership. True leadership, she told the audience, isn't about titles or power. It's about remembering the times you were overlooked, and making sure nobody under you ever feels invisible. The room erupted in applause. Afterward, a young analyst approached her. Ms. Morris, I come from a family that never believed in me either. Hearing you gives me hope. Selena smiled warmly. Then promise me one thing, don't just prove them wrong. Prove yourself right. The analyst nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. One evening, Clara returned from work to find Selena sitting quietly on the couch, an old photo album open on her lap. What's that? Clara asked gently. Selena traced a finger over a picture of her childhood home. It's all gone now. The house, the garden, the dinners. Even the lies. Clara sat beside her, resting her head on Selena's shoulder. And yet here you are, stronger than ever. Selena closed the album softly. Sometimes I wonder if strength was worth the cost. But then I look at what I've built, and I know it was. Months later, Darren's name resurfaced in the news. He had been arrested for fraud, caught running a fake investment scheme. The headline made its way to Selena's desk, handed over by her assistant. She scanned the article, her face expressionless. Clara watched her closely. Do you feel anything? She asked. Selena shook her head. Not anger, not sadness, just inevitability. This was always where his path would lead. She placed the paper aside, her voice steady. His story isn't mine anymore, but fate had one more confrontation in store. Weeks after Darren's arrest, Selena received a call from a county hospital. Her mother had collapsed at work. Though reluctant, Selena drove down, standing in the sterile hallway as doctors rushed by. When she finally entered the room, Diane looked fragile, tubes running from her arms. Her eyes lit up weakly. "Selena," she whispered. For a moment, Selena froze, torn between the anger of the past and the daughter still inside her. Slowly, she pulled a chair close. "I'm here," she said quietly. Diane's hand trembled as she reached out. "I don't deserve it, but thank you for coming." Selena swallowed hard. "You hurt me more than anyone ever could. But I won't let bitterness define me anymore." Tears welled in Diane's eyes. "I wish I had been the mother you needed." Selena squeezed her hand gently. "I wish that too. But we can't rewrite the past." For the first time in years, mother and daughter sat in silence, not as enemies, not as strangers, just two women connected by blood, trying to breathe in the same room. When Diane was discharged days later, Selena arranged for a nurse to visit her, though she kept her own distance. Clara asked why. Selena's answer was simple. "Because I don't hate her anymore. But I also can't forget. This is the balance I can live with." Clara nodded in understanding. Selena had finally found a middle ground, neither chained by resentment nor burdened by false reconciliation. She was free to choose what role her family played in her life, and for the first time, the choice was entirely hers. Selena returned to her office after her mother's discharge, carrying a new calm with her. Her employees noticed the difference. She smiled more, her laughter came easier, and though her days were still filled with meetings and deadlines, she seemed lighter. During a team lunch, one of her managers asked, "Boss, what's your secret? You never seem to break." Selena chuckled. "Oh, I break all the time. But I learned how to put myself back together. That's what makes me unbreakable." The table went quiet, her words sinking deep into everyone who heard them. She continued to build her company, but she also expanded her reach in another way. Selena started a foundation to provide scholarships for students facing financial hardship. Each award letter carried her personal message. "Your future matters. Don't give up, even when the world seems against you." Watching the first batch of recipients walk onto campus filled her with a joy she had never known. "This," she told Clara, tears glistening in her eyes, "is the life I wanted for myself. And now I'm giving it to others." Meanwhile, Darren was sentenced to several years in prison. News outlets covered his downfall extensively, contrasting his reckless choices with Selena's meteoric rise. Journalists sought her comment, but Selena refused. "His story is his own," she told her assistant. "I don't need to be part of it anymore." Clara later asked if she felt vindicated. Selena shook her head. "No. Feel relieved. Because I no longer carry his shadow. He can't hurt me anymore." Selena's father, Marcus, remained a quiet figure on the sidelines. He never reached out again after their brief encounter at the gala. But one afternoon a letter arrived, not from him but from a community center in Raleigh. Marcus had been volunteering there, teaching bookkeeping to local youth. The director wrote, "Your father often speaks of you with pride and regret in equal measure." Selena folded the letter carefully, tears pricking her eyes. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was enough. That night, Selena shared the letter with Clara. "Maybe he finally learned," she whispered. Clara smiled softly. "Or maybe he always knew, but it took losing you to see it clearly." Selena stared out the window at the city lights. "I'll never know. But I'm glad he's doing something good, even if it's too late for us." Clara wrapped her arms around her. "You don't have to carry their lessons anymore. You've already turned them into power." Selena's foundation grew rapidly, attracting donations and partnerships from major corporations. She stood on stages across the country, advocating for fairness in education and opportunities for those who, like her, had been overlooked. Each speech was a mixture of hard-earned wisdom and heartfelt vulnerability. "I am not extraordinary," she would say. "I am proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they refuse to give up." Her voice carried hope to every corner of the room, and audiences left inspired. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Clara surprised her with a simple question. "Selena, what do you want next? You've built an empire, you've changed lives. What's left?" Selena thought for a long moment, her eyes glistening. "Peace. That's all I've ever wanted. To wake up and know I'm safe, that I'm enough, and that I don't need anyone's approval to keep breathing. Clara smiled, pulling her close. Then I think you've already found it. Years later, Selena returned quietly to Raleigh, not for business, but to visit her mother, who now lived in a modest assisted living home. Diane's memory had begun to fade, but when Selena entered the room, her mother's eyes lit up with a flicker of recognition. "My strong girl," Diane whispered. For once, Selena didn't feel the sting of the past. She simply held her mother's hand and replied, "I'm here." They sat in silence, no apologies, no explanations, just two hearts learning to rest. Selena walked out of the facility that day with a strange sense of closure. The past hadn't vanished, but it no longer chained her. She had built a life filled with love, impact, and self-respect. Standing in the sunlight, she whispered to herself, "I am free." The words weren't bitter or triumphant, they were simply true. She realized then that her story wasn't just about betrayal or success. It was about transformation, about becoming whole in the face of brokenness. In the years to come, people would remember Selena Morris not just as a brilliant financial mind, but as a woman who turned pain into purpose. Her speeches, her foundation, her story, all became part of a legacy that outlived her wounds. And though her family's choices had once threatened to destroy her, she rose above them, crafting a future entirely her own. In the end, she proved that even the deepest betrayal could be rewritten into strength. And for every person who heard her story, there was a spark of hope that they, too, could rise.